my Built 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another That chapter. This one is titled Twisted Janitor's Dark Secret to a Scary Mystery. Oh, Twisted Janitor's Dark Secret led to a scary mystery. I go stupid sometimes. It's okay. It's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and mention again before we get into today's story. I am loving the stuff that's happening over on the Discord. And for those of you who are still trying to join up, the link should be in the description of the videos. If for some reason that link does not work, just let me know in the comments and I will fix it. And then there's a separate link on the actual YouTube homepage. They're both supposed to be like the infinite shit. So if for some reason they have timed out or anything like that or have expired, please let me know. Because like I said, I am relatively new to the Discord shit. I probably did something stupid. It's probably me, not you. And I mean that. I'm not just saying that so we don't get into a fight. I'm just literally telling you, it's probably me, not you. And if you are still trying, don't forget the link is in the description. You can just go there, click on it. It should take you to a whole other page. There should be a little box in the middle of that page, and it should say like, hold on, hold up. Let's just do this. Meow. 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 Alright. I should be able to do your channel. Alright. You should just have to go to this right here. It should bring up this box. Either you can hit already have an account, or you can start here, click continue, and go from there. Yes, I only have 9 members, but that is 9 members, bro. Alright. I figured I'd just go over that real fast with some. There was a few comments saying that they didn't know how to do it, and I understand that because honestly, like I said, I'm new to this stuff too, so. But you can do it that way right there. Alright. Now, all that aside, let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cup with something special. Let's get creeped out. Twisted Janitor, man. Creepy janitors are a thing, bro. And half the time, they're just nice people, but they're creepy. It happens. It happens. Let's go ahead and get into today's story.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and this old video takes us to a valley with a very strange and mysterious past. Not to mention present. Over a 3-year period in this valley, there were a cluster of unsolved murders which still puzzle to this day. This case is absolutely terrifying and mind-boggling, and there are some suspects, but one I think we should get into in particular, because it's been rumored, hinted at, that he may be linked to probably the most famous unsolved serial killer of the last century. So, let's give it a go.
Oh yeah, let's give it a go, bro. You know I love this shit, Mike. So does all my peoples, man.
The Lewis-Clark Valley region is an area between the states of Washington and Idaho. Separated by the Great Snake River, you have Lewiston in Idaho and Clarkston, Minnesota across the river in Washington. These 3 cities make up like the metro area, and it's, the epitome of successful, beautiful American dream in the Pacific Northwest. It's exactly the kind of place where people hope to, raise their families and watch their children grow. Crime is as low as the unemployment rate, and neighbors know each other's names quite well. It's all very white picket fenced, and once the sun goes down low, it gets like...
Oh, it gets real Mayberry up in there. Aunt B. Is Opie gonna come around the corner with a slingshot shooting at birds and shit? Damn. I like old TV shows, leave me alone.
Quiet. Like, dead quiet. Our mysterious cases, today, they span several crimes going from 1979 to 1982. On April 28, 1979, 12-year-old outdoorsy tomboy Chrissy White had gone to watch the parade that marked the arrival of the Asotin County Fair, and it was going to be another beautiful day. After school, young Chrissy had made plans to go to a friend's house and help prepare her horses for the Asotin County Fair.
I don't like where this
while
is
she was
going,
there
bro.
at her friend's house, she called home. She called her mother, Betty, saying that she just wasn't feeling very well at all. See, the previous day, young Chrissy had suffered from heat stroke, and it was still feeling like the after effects of it. Her mother...
Heat stroke is a fucking thing, people. Like, whenever I was younger, I was like, well, bullshit, man. I've been out in the heat all the damn time. Used to, football, played little league all the fucking time. Like, I'm out in some heat, bruh. And then I got older. I don't know if as you get older, you lose your moisture or what. Like an old dehydrated piece of jerky or something, but it's a real fucking thing, y'all. Like, it happens. Oh, I got it, and I've had it like 2 times. You sometimes feel like you're dying. Like, everything is so cold, but yet you're sweating. I felt like I was going to throw up. Oh, it was horrible. Like, my grandma? No, it was my great grandma. It was like, what you need to do is just get in there in a cold shower, as cold as you can handle for as long as you can handle it. You get that body temperature down. I came out of that shower with blue lips, man. I looked like a reject from the Blue Man Group. It was awful. It worked, though. I still felt like shit.
Betty didn't have ready access to a car, and she also had another small child at home, so she told Chrissy, just go lie down, put a wet cloth over yourself, hydrate, rest up, and then come on home when you're feeling a little bit better that evening.
Get you some Pedialyte.
The friend's house was only 7 blocks away from her own house, so Betty wasn't worrying too much. The day went on, slowly turned to evening, to dusk, and Chrissy never came home. Now, her mother, Betty, simply thought that, Chrissy must have just felt better, and she went to the fair after all. Chrissy had her bike to ride home, and, Asotin it's not the kind of place where kids get, snatched off the streets.
Yeah.
But
it's the type of place, hey, can you keep an eye on him for a second? I'm going to run over here and get him his birthday present, run out the car, I'll be right back. Yeah, sure, honey, I'll be right here. Can you still be there? Not no more, bruh. Oh, man, I hate this shit.
Then the minutes rolled into hours, and a mother's mild worry turned into full-on panic. She was looking at the window every 5 minutes. Then that turned into opening the door and sticking the head outside. Then that turned into walking the streets, calling her name, to silence. It was like, Betty went around, she called up the friend's house, she called on the neighbors, she knocked around, but it was like Chrissy had ceased to exist. No one could find Chrissy. Somewhere in the 7 blocks between her friend's house and her own home, Chrissy had vanished. Despite a reward offered for information leading to her recovery and a long intensive search by sheriff's deputies, Chrissy has never been found. Even her distinctive white 10-speed Schwinn bicycle was never discovered. Her father even took to the skies when another local man offered him, the use of his helicopter. They were in whirlybirds going around the whole area seeing if they could find the bike, from the sky. And they could not. The bike was never found. In fact, no one even...
Man, if everyone who went missing if everyone who went missing's family had a person who owned a helicopter, I think a lot more people would probably be found, Because you'd be like, yo, John, I need you to come through with the whirlybird. Get that whirly gig going. We got a person to find. Man, you could never run away from home. You'd be fucked.
Even was able to come forward saying they had seen her during that short...
Why is there a Apache helicopter chasing after you? I ran away from home. Take your ass back, bruh.
A couple of minutes bike ride home at all. Weeks after Chrissy vanished, pieces of her schoolwork were found in a farm just outside of town. There was a load of pages there just laying in a field, and the police thought that they had been placed there deliberately. They'd been torn out of her book and then deliberately placed there, not like they were just thrown out a window or anything like that. The police seemed to think that this was a taunt, that whoever did this was, look what I got. Whether or not that's true, the case soon stalled, gradually getting colder and colder.
That sucks.
Then, on June 26, 1981, 22-year-old journalism student Kirsten David was dropped off in Moscow town by a friend. Moscow town, by the way, pretty well known, I think at this point, from what happened there a few months ago with those horrific murders. So, this area, busy. Kirsten was expected to ride the 32 miles back on her blue 10-speed bicycle to Lewiston to meet another friend. This was...
If anyone knows what the hell he's talking about, put it down in the comments, because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I need to know what the hell he's talking about.
At around 5 p.m., but she never showed. She never showed up to meet her friend in town. Kirsten now loved her bike. She was mad to get on the old pedaling. She just repainted it. She was excited to go for this bike ride from Moscow to Lewiston. And somewhere along that route, she just vanished. She was last seen coming down a hill on the way into Lewiston, so she almost made it. And that was it. A witness came forward in the immediate aftermath of Kirsten's disappearance and told police that he had seen a man on his own driving a brown Ford van. This guy had pulled over and was talking to a woman on a bicycle.
That's not correct. It's supposed to be white. We know this. It's supposed to be white. No, he needs to figure his shit the fuck out, bro. Glasses fit. The glasses definitely fit.
The woman's description matched Kirsten's. Then on the 4th of July 1981, her family received the worst news possible. After an 8-day search for Kristen David, fishermen out on the Snake River had found a body. It was Kristen. Her body was found dismembered and wrapped in black plastic bags. It took the police multiple days to clear the river of the plastic bags. There were so many. The delay in recovering the various parts and pieces only led to a sense of fear that was already spreading in the small community. And that then soon blew out of all control. No one knew who had committed this horrendous crime, and no one felt safe. This was a young student who had been butchered and then dumped in Snake River. Now, at the time, nobody connected Kristen's murder to Chrissy's disappearance at all. Sadly, as is so often the case,
names are awfully familiar.
An even more horrendous crime for their...
Did I have a fucking aneurysm? What the shit? Their names are awfully similar, and even kind of like their looks are a little on the similar side too.
For links to begin to spiderweb out, and you begin to think that these cases are all connected. I mean, there was some similarities between Kristen and Chrissy. Their names are kind of similar, but I mean, the killer probably didn't know that. They were both taken while on bicycles. That was kind of it. Neither bike has ever been found. It was far from obvious that these cases were related until this. And before we continue, let me just mention that this whole video is sponsored by Beam, the best way to get an amazing night's sleep. Let me tell you something. I don't sleep good, quite frankly. I'm a tosser, I'm a turner, I'm an unable to turn my brain off at night thinker. I'm a zombie exhausted all day, wishing I could go to bed, sucking my thumb at night.
Bro, it gets to the point where when I finally get to go to bed, like, the old lady helps me to the bedroom because I'm like, but if I don't go to bed like that, I will never get to sleep. I'll just sit there and stare at the ceiling all damn night long. Stupid shit.
Right. But with Dream by Beam, I've honestly had the most amazing night's sleep ever. Dream Powder is specifically formulated to help you get the best night's sleep. And as a company ran by former professional athletes, they know the importance of getting that snooze in. A cup of Dream is delicious. It comes in different flavors too. Honestly, I would drink it all day, but well, I do need to be awake sometimes. There's no added sugar, it's only 15 calories, it's free of all the stuff you don't want, and it is clinically shown to give you the best night's sleep ever. And guess what? The next day, your skin be better, your mind be better, your body be better, you be better. It helps reduce stress, improving reaction time, improving your immune system by giving your body what it needs, which I can think we can all agree we do not get enough of in this day and age. Pure, simple sleep. So please click the link below and use...
But see, my main thing is I don't want to be one of those people that have to take something every night to go to sleep. It's like my lady, she takes a couple of melatonins every night before bed. Sometimes, you know, mix it up a little bit. She'll get some of that sleepy time tea shit. The kids, they have a hard time going to bed. I do too. Like, but I just don't want to be on like Tylenol PMs or melatonin or anything that I'm gonna have to take it every freaking night to go sleep. Or say I ran out of it, or I didn't know I ran out of it, and I'm sitting there and now I'm just not going to sleep because I don't have nothing to put me to sleep. I'm one of those people. I want it, but I'm not willing to go through anything to do it.
Code CHAPTER to get 35% off your first order when you subscribe, and then 20% off all following orders. Plus, when you subscribe, you get a free frother with your first order to make your drink nice and foamy. You can pause, skip, cancel at any time, so there's no risk at all. And if you're into CBD to really chill out, they have a version with that for you too. So please click the link below and use code CHAPTER to get 35% off your first order and then 20% off all orders. Thank you so much to Beam for sponsoring this whole video, and to Dream, which, well, I mean, it does exactly what it says in the tin. The chocolate peanut butter, by the way, real good. Now, let's get back into it.
Screw that CBD shit. I live in Ohio. This shit's
legal,
Sunday,
bro. September 12th, 1982, what has become known as the Lewiston Civic Theater incident took place. You know that anytime you hear the something incident, you know shit's gonna get wild. In this one, they just got more terrifying, because what exactly happened? We don't know, but something horrendous did. The Lewiston Civic Theater sits in a quieter part of town. As soon as you're off the main street, very few streetlights. Almost an eerie silence. Reading about what some people were saying about the area, creepy was the word that came up again and again. Maybe we can find out why. Jacqueline Miller, known as Brandy, and Christina Nelson, known as Christy, were as much friends as they were step-siblings. 21-year-old Christy was a cheerleader in high school, very artistic, loved to paint and adored animals. She had all the choices of the world, but was planning on becoming a vet. She loved just animals.
Hell yeah.
Feathers and fur.
I can respect that.
She was attending Lewis Clark State College and was working part-time at a drive-in. Brandy was 18 years old, known as very outgoing, very friendly, like ready to help anybody at the drop of a hat. The girls got on like a house on fire, better than most actual sisters ever would, and often just enjoyed hanging out and going around town together. Christy, being a little bit older, and in college she had her own apartment. Brandy would often go over, spend the night, sleep together. They were last seen on September 12th, 82, walking down the road, just going to a grocery store. And then they were never seen again. Now, when the first reports came out that Christy and Brandy were missing, the police didn't exactly, whoa, jump out of their seats.
At the same time?
I mean, the first thing was like,
that's escalation.
College girls, they'd have gone off with some bull.
That's some definite escalation. Like, you go from one. Actually, we don't even know if he went after just one. Maybe he was going after two and just kind of making it a little like, I'm going to grab one from here, I'm going to grab one from there. But still, that's not two at the same time. Escalation protocol.
Boys, they'll turn up eventually. Our community is so safe. Bad things don't happen here. At all.
Bad things can happen anywhere, bro.
That's for big city folk, not for us.
No.
They didn't really kind of start taking this very seriously at all, despite them missing their obligation.
Like my great grandpa used to say, even big cities start off small, boy. How you think they get big? It's like, so basically what he's saying is there's tomfuckery everywhere, homie. It don't matter.
Class, school, not contacting their parents, any of the usual sort of thing. When they did get their ass into gear, the investigators began searching the routes between both their homes, between the grocery store, all around town, multiple times. They had just completely vanished, and they were expecting to come back. Christina had left a note on her door of her apartment for her boyfriend, who they were expecting to arrive while they were out for grocery shopping. She left a note saying, "Just gone to the grocery store, be back in a few minutes. Wait for us." He was waiting for a while. So whether or not they actually got to the grocery store is undetermined. The grocery store in the apartment wasn't far, so they were able to search that pretty easy and found nothing.
Motherfucker just sitting on that stoop like, someday. New people done moved in. Hey, came with the place.
Then they began to think, you know what? Lewiston Civic Theater is like right there along the route, and they would hang out there all the time. Christina used to work there, and so they would just go there, chill. It was like their just hangout spot in the town. So all eyes then began to point at the Civic Theatre. Did they pop in there? And did something happen in there?
Probably.
That meant that suspicion first fell on a 35-year-old man named Stephen Pearsall. Stephen, who had recently left the military, just so happened to work at the theatre and was very close with both girls. By all accounts, Stephen was like a big brother to both of them. And what's more, we know Stephen was working in the Lewiston Civic Theatre that night. A patrol officer had seen him using one of the side entrances to get in there. See, Stephen worked there part-time as a set decorator and also as the janitor of the theatre, which, funnily enough, was Kristen's old job. Stephen's girlfriend also confirmed that she had last seen Stephen when she dropped him off at the theatre that evening just before midnight after a party. She told investigators Stephen had asked to be dropped off there, he wanted to practice his clarinet. Is that this? And then he had some work that he just needed to finish up. All initial reports when the girls, Brandy and Christy, disappeared, it all seemed to point at Stephen. Police wanted to speak with him.
I would too.
They just couldn't find him.
Why not?
He too had disappeared. Now the police never, initially they oh, he took them, he ran away. No, he was a missing person too. He had left his clarinet in the Civic Theatre after he'd been dropped off there. And he would take that anywhere he would go. Back at his house, he had left his wallet there, an uncashed check.
Ignore everything
so it didn't
I said
seem
earlier.
like his disappearance was voluntary. What we know is that he walked in and he just disappeared. There was a black hole inside the theatre, and we presume Brandy and Christy both walked in there too. They also got sucked in somewhere. Then the grim and grisly discovery of both Brandy and Christy's bodies. That was 18 months later.
Damn.
On March
man.
19th, 1982.
A year and a half.
The girls' decomposed remains were found 2.5 miles north
Shit.
of Kendrick, Idaho, down a steep embankment off a highway by a teenager. The young fella was out there looking for cans to, trade in, get a couple of cents, whatever, make some money.
Yeah.
He found a skull, was like, cool. Thought it was a deer skull. It was not a deer skull. The authorities then arrived and they found 2 intact skeletons, and it had been so much time it was impossible to tell, what could have happened to them. But they were so near the road, it seemed like, their bodies had been thrown out of a car down the hill. Investigators have never released exactly how the girls died, but the pathologist who examined their remains did say there was evidence of trauma. And of Stephen, who was working that night, who was there that night, disappeared. No trace has ever been found of Stephen Pearsall. Whether he was involved with what happened to them, we may never know. Someone probably does, because there was one other person in the theatre that night. That's 5 victims in 3 years. Christina White in 1979, Kristen
Definite
David
4.
in 1981, and Christina Nelson, Brandy Miller, and Stephen Pearsall in 1982. To date, there have been 0 arrests made in any of these cases, but that doesn't mean there's no suspects or know nothing about what happened. Notorious dickheads Henry Lee Lucas and his weirdo partner in crime, Otis Toole, both separately confessed to being behind all 5 of the murders. But with pretty much all their confessions, it didn't take long to say, you're full of shit. And then, so just stop talking, we don't care. They were not behind it, it's believed. So now is the part where I just have to give you a little disclaimer, because the main person of interest, and this is where you're going to get to see the spiderwebs, folks, he's never been publicly named by the authorities. Even though they've admitted he is who they think is responsible for this, they just don't have enough to put him away. His name, you can find it, it's kind of everywhere. But I probably just, for myself, probably just shouldn't say it. I'll say his name is Vance Loss. There are plenty of people who don't have the same qualms I do, including family members of the victims who were pretty much outright pointing at him saying he did it. And there's actually some documentaries where they're very happy to give this guy the L finger. As I said, Stephen Pearsall wasn't the only other person in the Civic Theatre that night when it's believed Brandy and Christy walked in. There was another set decorator that night there too. So you might just be thinking, whoa, Mike, what's this got to do with the other cases? You know? Well, I hear you're barking, big dog.
Yeah.
Remember Chrissy White, the first person who
Yes.
disappeared? She was at her friend's house,
Yes.
and that's the last place we know she was.
Yeah.
Well, that friend of Christina's, her mother just so happened to have a boyfriend, Vance Loss. And Vance just so happened to be over at the house that day. He volunteered to police. He was the one who gave young Chrissy a wet cloth when she said she was suffering from heat stroke
Chloroform.
the day she vanished. He was at the house. Christina White's mother, Betty, vividly recalls the suspect being incredibly over-interested and over-keen, peachy keen, on being involved in the search for her daughter, which is something we see again and again and again of.
So can he not say the dude's actual name? Like, is it what he's saying? Vance Laws? I'm confused, man. And now he's just saying suspect. Can we not? If man, I don't care. I'll speak his name. I don't give a shit. I ain't scared. Baltimore motherfucker. I'll cut your nose off, homie.
Guilty people involving themselves in the investigation. Guess what? Vance Loss also worked in the Lewiston Civic Theatre the same night, and he was there. We know for sure he was there. He's even readily admitted he was there that night when Brandy, Christy, and Stephen vanished. Then there's 22-year-old Kristen David. Well, our same person of interest, Vance Loss, drove that route between Moscow and Lewiston, the same route Kristen would have been cycling on that day. He was known to be living in Lewiston at the time. Completing the whole kind of circle, the old weirdo circle of the whole what the shitness is going on, guess what? Kristen David also worked in that same civic theatre. So maybe she was cycling home, a guy who she used to work with pulled over, they began talking, next thing you know she's gone. Now, in an interview about what had happened at the Lewiston Civic Theatre the night the 3 people disappeared, he said he had been there. I was there, but he'd hurt his back. So he had gone down for a little rest, a little nap, and he'd fallen asleep. And that was it. Slept through, didn't hear, see nothing. So he'd been asleep at the maybe crime scene. Contemporary investigations of the theatre have led investigators to believe it.
What you're telling me is you fell asleep in a theater that is made to carry sound. And you slept through potentially 3 people being murdered, kidnapped, or whatever the case may be. Bullshit. Don't play that game, homie.
Is a crime scene, but it's a theater, right? There's been hundreds, thousands of people coming and going through it at all times. It's impossible to try and get any evidence there at all, even back at the time. You know, because there was a couple of days before the investigation actually ramped up. Productions on, meetings on, everything on, productions, all the whole thing.
The show must go on.
Now, our man Vance Loss also happens to have a long history of strange and worrying incidents, seemingly being in the wrong place at the very worst of times. Let me just say, once again, I reiterate, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm not saying he did anything, but
I'll say he did.
Another way of putting it would be he's like the Forrest Gump, but for murders. And that's not only our case, there's plenty more. A couple of years after the Lewiston Civic Theatre incident, on July 27th, 1987, Vance Loss's girlfriend, a former nurse, Claudette Valiva, passed away by an overdose, and Vance was the one to find her. Usually that'd just be a very tragic, terribly dark and sad event. But again, with this guy, there's always like a little nugget of, that's odd, because she used to work as a seamstress for the Civic Theatre too. It all comes back to the theatre. Then there's the California mortuary
bad for you,
incident,
evidently.
and this is
That's
really
why I don't go.
Dark. At one point in 1972, when he was living in San Jose, California, Vance Loss was seen by a witness trying to break into the Willow Glen mortuary. When the police caught up with him, he was found in possession of a 12-inch knife, a flashlight, and a camera. When asked why he was at the mortuary, he told the police he was there to, quote, see his girlfriend. Inside the mortuary that day was the body of a 17-year-old girl named Antoinette Anino, who had tragically drowned and been found on a beach in Santa Cruz. She was not Vance's girlfriend, by the way, and in fact, looking into it, there was zero connection between the two of them. At all. So, despite somehow going equipped, locked and loaded, for something much worse, he was only ever charged with trespassing. Also, just to say real quick, there's a couple of...
What was he going to do with the knife? Was he going to take something off the dead body and take it home? Was he... What, was he taking a knife for protection in case someone walked on him doing just really disgusting things with the body? Oh my God, I'm gonna make myself throw up. Let's just go. No.
Other murders that have happened kind of nearby to him. He's always at a scene where murders just sort of happen. Like when he was growing up in Chicago, a young girl, 8-year-old Diane Taylor, she was brutally murdered in Chicago in 1963, and she lived in his same neighborhood. This same man,
Is
Vance
this guy's
Voss, is
name
also
really
a
Vance
lot
Loss, or
of
is it
people's pick
Lance Voss?
for the Zodiac Killer. Now, he was in the Navy. Here's a picture of him. Stick some specs on him, he's pretty similar.
whoa,
Oh wait,
whoa,
he did
yeah.
wear glasses! He
Hell
joined the
yeah.
Navy and was discharged in 1968 in Oakland, California, near where the Zodiac murders happened. So, and it's believed the Zodiac also had a military background. Once he was discharged, our boy Vance Loss was in a motorcycle accident, leaving him with a limp. The Zodiac had a limp. His sister worked in the San Francisco school district, and he was hanging out with his sister all the time, so he'd have a lot of excuses to go to San Francisco. He worked as a used car salesman, which means he had access to all different sorts of cars. He remained in California until 1975 when he moved to Idaho. And a few years later, the first murder/disappearance that we know of occurred. Now, having said all that, the authorities, they did come out and say they believe, they'd have identified the main person of interest in the Zodiac Killer case, Gary Post, which, was anybody else disappointed to find out that the Zodiac's possible real name was Gary? It's just, no offense to Gary out there, it's just Gary. The police and families of the victims.
You want it to be like Abzubla or something, you know what I mean? You want him to have some kind of weird ass funky cult name. Like, we're gonna call you Monday Butterfly Thunderstorm. I'd been happy with that. I'd been more satisfied. Hey Gary, you got a phone call? No.
Clearly think that they know exactly who they want held responsible.
The suspect can't be named because he has never been charged with the crime, but Nichols says he admits to being in the Civic Theater the night Stephen Pearsall disappeared and when the women were murdered. He also lived at the house where Christina White was last seen. Gloria Boberts, Christina Nelson's cousin, has spent years now looking into this suspect.
He always seems to be in where people have disappeared. He admits to being at the Lewiston Civic Theater.
After the murders in 1982, law enforcement began to look into this man's possible involvement.
Well, he initially gave a couple of interviews to law enforcement and then no longer wished to cooperate with law enforcement.
Detective Nichols says he then moved to the other side of the country, and even though he's thousands of miles away from Asotin County, she thinks about him every day.
I mean, I would definitely like to interview him. And I have since the day I started the case.
Many people ask, why hasn't he been charged?
You have to be able to prove everything, and in a case this cold, it becomes even more difficult because witnesses have left, passed away, forgotten.
But she's not discouraged, and she continues to follow leads.
And now I'm kind of at the point where I'm trying to collaborate with the Lewiston Police Department, and we've been working on going through the files and cleaning them up and looking at what we have.
Do you still feel like there's hope to solving these cases?
Yeah, it can happen. It can definitely happen. I mean, it could be tomorrow, it could be 20 years from now, but it could happen. And so
doesn't mean it's
as
going to
long
be in
as
our
there's that
lifetime.
possibility, I'll keep working on it.
And Detective Nichols' outlook gives the families hope.
So you might be wondering why, if everybody is so sure this guy, Vance Loss, is behind the Lewis Clark Valley murders, why hasn't he been, arrested? Why hasn't he been charged? Why are the police even not naming him publicly? They'll name him privately as their person of interest, but they won't name him publicly. And the answer to that is it's circumstantial. There's no direct evidence tying him to any of the murders. Maybe it will come up via DNA, who knows, but with all of the cases, it's so out there. It's so hard. I mean, the first one's a disappearance. The second one, she was in the river for couple of days. The third one, they weren't discovered for over a year later. Two of the victims are still missing. He is currently living on the East Coast, a fair bit away. He could be a perfectly innocent guy, of course, but it's just odd.
What? I live
And
on the
still
East
to this
Coast,
day, the
man.
mysterious terror remains in the Lewis Clark Valley. The people that were Christina White, Kristen David, Christina Nelson, Brandy Miller,
Don't tell me
Stephen
shit like that.
Pearsall are all remembered, are all memories. People still...
There's all kinds of old ass theaters around where I live, man. Don't tell me that shit. I live on the East, man. No, bro. Come on now, homie. You can't be doing this shit.
These many years later, sit and miss them for a minute. But then a shadow hangs over all of them. That is the monster that got away.
Oh, yeah.
And that wraps up this whole video. Thank you so much for watching. This story is a very deep rabbit hole. I would highly recommend you look further into it if you're interested. It goes very, very deep.
Mike, you son of a bitch, you know I love rabbit holes. There's not many holes I don't like. Wait, whoa, up. Oh. When it comes to like mysterious rabbit holes, there's not many that I don't like because they all have intrigue to them, and I love being intrigued. Don't get your freaking heads out the gutter, nasties. Jeez. Alright, I really enjoyed today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. And to all the new subscribers that I've been seeing pop up, welcome to the B5 Nation. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. If not, let me know. I'll try. I'll try, okay? Alright. Oh, I don't even know. Oh, and if you really want to ding that bell, it might work for you, it might not. But if it do, jump in on one of my premieres, get over in the live chat and be like, hey, Bill, you dinged me. It dinged so hard, it vibrated my molars. I'm like, holy shit, you might want to go to the dentist. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Mike. No. Don't come at me with the rabbit holes, man. I know what I'm doing tonight. Thanks a lot, bud. I was gonna try to sleep.